Hey everyone, how's it going? So, with the upcoming release of the Mass Effect Trilogy Remastered, aka Mass Effect Legendary Edition, I started thinking to myself, with all these games being remastered and stuff like that, I thought, what are some other games that I could actually add to a wish list that I think are worthy of a remaster? And so what I've done right now is compiled just a list of my own personal favorites that I thought would be really great if all these were remastered. And so what I limited all these to were games that are in a trilogy. If you also don't include any games of the series that are on a handheld device. So the PSP doesn't count, any Nintendo handhelds don't count. These are basically strictly console based. And if any of these have a PC version as well, so be it. But anyway, like I'm saying, I'm keeping it relevant to shit that's actually on a proper console. So, to kick off this list, and keep in mind, some of these games have actually been remastered. However, it's not every game in the trilogy that's been remastered, at least not yet at the time I film this. So just kicking off this list, I'll say the Crisis Trilogy. Currently the first game's been remastered. Not particularly amazingly, but it is remastered. And from what I hear, and it's just a rumor at the moment, but apparently part 2 and 3 are currently being worked on, and if that's true, awesome. Considering that the Crisis remaster, at least for the first game, was remastered from the PC, I keep fucking this up, sorry, the console ports. So I found that the console version for the first game, mechanically and the way that the controls work, was nowhere near as pleasantly smooth as the feel for number 2 and 3. So even if they do just remaster the console versions for part 2 and 3, I still think they're going to wind up being a lot better than what we got with the first remaster. But just my opinion, just speculation, but we can wait and see. But I'm telling you, I would love to have all 3 of those games remastered, especially the second one. That's my favorite in the series. 3's pretty good, but part 2 was, I thought that one was amazing. And of course, all 3 of these games right now you can play on the Xbox One backwards compatibility list. If any of these games are on the backwards compatibility list, I'll mention them as I go. But yeah, just know that unfortunately, the PS5, PS4 doesn't play PS3 games unless those games were remastered for any of those consoles. But anyway, the next one on this list, the Dead Space Trilogy. Yes, all these are on the Xbox One list. So I was really upset when EA shut this company down, and those games were really popular, so much in fact that we got a spiritual successor on the way. I don't know much about the game yet, but I'll at least check it out. And so I wasn't super big on the Dead Space games, however I do know a lot of other people really love them, even with part 3 being a little bit of a departure from the tone of the first 2. But alas, they still definitely hold the title in their little genre, and so it is very rare to actually find a survival horror game set in space. So just that alone, I actually gave them pretty big props for. And even if there were a sci-fi survival horror game set in space prior to when Dead Space came out, I still think Dead Space took that genre and ran with it in a different way that was a bit more what's the word I'm looking for here? Marketable to the majority of people. So, yeah, to see all those games remastered and everything like that, I think would, be pretty awesome. The next one on this list is the Fear Trilogy. Now, Fear was a game I really got into when it came out. The 2 expansion packs of the first game, Extraction Point and Perseus Mandate, I also really enjoyed. Then those expansion packs became non-canon when Monolith decided, now we're just going to replace it with this different story that, in my opinion, wasn't actually as good. It didn't stay true to the theme and tone of a horror story, which the Fear Trilogy is. So, if you like first-person shooters that do slow-mo really well, because in my opinion, I'm talking about first-person shooters, not third-person. Of all first-person shooters I've played, I haven't found any that does slow-mo better than Fear. Part 3 I actually really liked as well. Not when I first played it, but that's because I was playing it wrong. You meant to use the cover system they had in the game, and I wasn't doing it. Me being the fuckhead I was at the time the game came out, I was trying to play it like the first game, which you can't really do. But once I went back to it 4 or 5 years later, I'm like, why didn't I like this at the beginning? This game is amazing! And so, yeah, I feel that those games not only are worthy to be added to the backwards compatibility list for Xbox One, because they're currently not, even though Monolith themselves are asking for that to be put on there. But yes, they also are very much worthy of a remaster, provided you do it right. It goes without saying, all these remasters on this list, if they haven't yet been remastered, they have to be done properly. So yeah, I really think that if they did remaster it, it could introduce gamers that are, of a younger age that didn't get to play these games when they came out into them, especially since at least the first game is criticized for its graphics. I personally don't have an issue with the graphics. I think they work well for the game, but if they still were to touch up the graphics and make them a little bit better and more aesthetically pleasing visually for, current gamers out there, I think these games could sell well, so definitely that. The other one, this one's pretty obvious to be on this list, is the Dragon Age Trilogy. Now, keep in mind when I'm saying a remaster for this, I'm not just talking about the PS4 and the Xbox One generation. I'm talking PS5 and Series X. Mostly because Inquisition is already available on the Xbox One and the PS4. And so, basically what they would need to do was either remaster all three of them for the current generation, or they just remaster the first two and have it work for the PS4 and the Xbox One, considering both of those games are forward compatible with the next generation console of that same brand. So but either way, I still think Inquisition still would look really good if that was remastered again for the current generation of consoles that we have, especially because it would be a little bit easier, I think, just to bundle them all together in a collection, just for the one generation console, as opposed to just remastering the first two. But either way, they could go either way. I still think even if they did just do the first two and make them forward compatible with the ability to take advantage of all the enhancements of the next generation console, they would still do well. But either way, it's still part of a trilogy, and I personally would like to see all three of those ones remastered. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of hack and slash games, I still think the Dragon Age games are very good. Mostly the first one. Second game, yeah, I'm pretty sure that game was being made at the same time they did Mass Effect 2. So, which game do you think they put all their money into? I'm going to say Mass Effect, which, fair enough, amazing game, not saying it's not. The next one on this list is the Resistance Trilogy. Now, keep in mind, the only reason I still have a PS3 is just for those three games, because almost everything else that was on the PS3 got remastered for PS4, and so that's what I have on now. I got The Last of Us remastered on there, the first three Uncharted games, I had, Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, all those got remastered among other titles for the next gen, but those ones are still not remastered, and I'm like, why? Because Insomniac have remastered other games of this before, and I do think these ones would be worthy. Last year I did hear a rumor that at least the first game might have been getting remastered, but I really think they should go the way of Bioshock and remaster all three, bundle them together, release it. That's the way to go. And I'm telling you, I will immediately sell my PS3 if they remaster the Resistance Trilogy. That's the only reason I have that console still. The next thing that's also PlayStation exclusive, because Resistance Trilogy is PlayStation exclusive. Sorry if I didn't mention that for anyone not in the know. Alright, next game on this list is the Killzone Trilogy. And I know people are going to tell me, but there's 4 of them, what about Shadowfall? What the fuck about it? So, 3 Killzone games, and I know that the first Killzone game was originally a PS2 title that was then ported over to the PS3 when they released all those games as a trilogy in that pack, which I used to have, but I don't anymore, because I couldn't quite get into the second game, which of course means that I didn't play the third one. But my housemate really loves the games, and she goes, yeah, you really need to play the third one. I'm like, I'll get around to it eventually, but I kind of do want to play all of them. I don't know, for some reason the controls made me a bit dizzy with the second game, and so I couldn't quite, continue. But there's more reasons to remaster this trilogy than just that. One, if you remaster the first game and make it look even better than it did when they ported it over to the PS3, I think that the game would be much better to play, simply on not just on a visual level, but even if they make the controls a little bit better and stuff like that. Even if they just full on just remake the first game, it would be great, and then just remaster part 2 and 3. Because I would be willing to give those games another shot if they do fix some stuff up, not just visuals. So yeah, I'd say, hey, remaster the Killzone games. That would be really awesome. The next one on this list is the Turok Trilogy. Now, I know that Turok 1 and 2 are already remastered. I've reviewed those games on this channel before. Part 3 is still one that would really wrap up that trilogy. I didn't really like Oblivion that much. I was hoping for a fourth entry. They continued on the cliffhanger that Part 3 ended off with. But of course, I think they were pressed for time, and so they decided to just slap together a prequel that predates the first title. And so, anyway, the thing that does directly connect Turok 1, 2, and 3 is that all of them originally came out in the Nintendo 64, whereas Evolution doesn't. And the less said about that fucking 2008 reboot, the better. Just no, okay? No. And yeah, Rage Wars, I know a lot of people like it. I couldn't really give a fuck about it. If, they remaster it, great. I really think the best way that Night Dive could go about remastering Rage Wars would be to release it back-to-back with Turok 3. But, alas, I'm just saying that, yeah, if they also remastered Turok 3, that would be great. I can then have a complete trilogy. I don't care if it's digital only, as long as I can play him, it would be amazing. Part 3 is a really good game. It got overshadowed by other FPSs that came out that year, such as Perfect Dark. And I'm not saying Perfect Dark's not a good game, it is amazing. I just think that, people really need to give Turok 3 the chance it deserves. And you can either play it on Nintendo 64, or if you want to be smarter about it, you can just run it on an emulator. It runs better, it runs smoother, and you can plug in a much better controller, because the 360 controllers I think work better. Any of the Xbox ones work better. If you want a PS4 controller hooked up to it, fine. Any that'll work, I'm sure, is better than the Nintendo 64 controller. That thing looked like it was designed for some fucked up alien. So, and playing FPSs on that, it can be done. I'm just saying they not as good as something else that's got 2 control sticks. So, yeah, please. Sometime, Night Dive Studio, if you can, Turok 3, okay. Next one on this list is the Gears of War Trilogy. Now, Judgment it's a spin-off / prequel, so I'm not quite including that, especially since they had help from different developers that didn't work on the first 3 titles, and so at the moment we've only got the first Gears of War game remastered under the name Ultimate Edition. But currently Part 2 and 3, if you want to play those on the Xbox One, they are Xbox One X enhanced, so they do look a lot better than just playing it on a 360. And that's, at the moment, the closest thing we got to a remaster for those titles. So, yeah, sad face. But I do think that if they did remaster them, people would buy them and they would do well. I don't really know if they would consider adding the multiplayer into it. Now, even though I'm not a guy that plays multiplayer, I just never really... It's just not my thing, okay? I do know that a lot of people play Gears of War games for its multiplayer content, so I do think that adding it would be a good idea. Microsoft just needs to know how to market it properly. But I think if they are going to remaster number 2 and 3, the best way to go about it is to remaster them and release them at the same time in a 2-pack. And that way we would then be able to have a complete trilogy. Or, I don't know, maybe even just remaster them and release them in a trilogy pack as well. I'm sure a lot of people would just go and sell the standalone disc they have for the Ultimate Edition of the first game, and then they'll just go buy the entire trilogy. So, I don't know, there's a lot of ways they could go about it, but, we'll see what happens. Or maybe they could put all 3 in together, but for current generation, because the remaster of the first title, even though it looks way better by comparison to the original one that came out in the 360 in 2006, I think they can make it look even better again for the PS5 and the Xbox Series X generation. So, remastering all 3 together in a bundle? Yeah, okay, I'd buy it, I don't care. Alright. Second last one on this list is the Modern Warfare Trilogy. Now, they've already remastered the first 2. Rumour has it that number 3 is already in the works to be remastered, and it seems very likely that would be the case, because to just remaster the first 2, then not the third one, seems a little bit counterproductive and intuitive, but, with the way gaming companies are these days, I don't know. Some companies are doing things well, others are just making decisions where I'm like, what the fuck? You realize you're running a business, right? How is this decision helping your business? Like, it's not. So, we'll just see how it goes. So, I am predicting that within the next year from when this video is going to be uploaded, that we will see a remaster of Modern Warfare 3, probably just the campaign. I know other people, like I said, like the multiplayer, but I do think the game would sell well, even if it is just the campaign. From what I understand, the second game was remastered, and of course just with the campaign, no multiplayer, and it sold well also, so, you know, I'd buy it, that's all I'm saying. Then, complete trilogy, yay! And last but not least, this is the Dead to Rights trilogy. I know there's technically 4, but Reckoning was a handheld one, and as I stated at the beginning of this video, I'm only including ones on console, so that leaves us with Dead to Rights 1, 2, and then the reboot they did, which is my personal favourite. Now, I basically only just wanted to talk about Retribution, but so I just bundled the other in there just to, you know, as an excuse to have it part of a trilogy. But I still think if they still remastered the first 2, which I haven't played, don't kill me, I don't know if they are better or worse than Retribution. I just know that I played Retribution on its own merits. It's a great game, I fucking love it, and I would very much love for that game to be remastered. And if they need to do it as a trilogy to, you know, try to boost sales for people that love the first 2 games, well then so be it. Whatever it is that they, like, even if they charge $100 for it, I'll probably still pay for that. And if you're watching this outside of Australia, I know, like, if you're in America, your currencies are different, but the standard amount for a brand new game in Australia at EB Games, our equivalent to GameStop, is $100 Australian dollars. There are exceptions to the rule. If it's just one game that's been remastered, it's usually cheaper. But typically, when they remaster 3 games in a pack together and release it, they do release that for the full price. So, you know, I'm just saying, if that was the case, I could still see my way of justifying getting it just for that one game. But I would still play the first 2, because I am keen on doing that. Unfortunately, it's not on the backwards compatibility list for the Xbox One if you live in Australia. Apparently, I think it's part 2 is if you're in America, but not Australia for some reason. So, I don't know. And unfortunately, too, if you want to go and buy Retribution to check it out at least, it's not available for digital purchase anymore. I'm sure it's got something to do with licensing issues, but yeah, this is why I'm very animate about keeping my discs, because I wouldn't be able to play it anymore. You know, as I mentioned before, the Fear Trilogy, the first game, you can't get digitally anymore due to some licensing bullshit, including its 2 expansion packs, which you could only download for the 360 under the name Fear Files. As far as I know, it never got released to the PS3, but alas, great game, and like I said, if you want to play it, you need the fucking disc now. You know, just getting it in digital format is no longer an option, which sucks, but it is what it is. So, I'm just saying, the Dead to Rights games, yeah, I would love to see those games get remastered, all 3 bundled together. Even if they do want to chuck in Retribution as well, Reckoning, I'd be okay with that. With all the games I just mentioned, a lot of them do have handheld games, including the Resistance Trilogy. If they also want to bundle those together, which is fine by me, I have seen a lot of handheld games get ported over to the PS4. So I know that there is a market for it, and I just think, you know, if I was working with all these companies, it's something I would try to capitalize on, but, you know, here we are. And yes, that about wraps this video up, but I will say, if you haven't played the Fear, at least the first Fear game, please go ahead and check it out. I'm sure you can find a copy of that somewhere on eBay or at a thrift store, as well as Dead to Rights Retribution. I really think that game is criminally underrated, so I'd love to see a remaster. But yeah, what I loved about Dead to Rights Retribution was the fact that it was a third-person shooter, but it didn't give you an infinite amount of ammo to do what you need to do. So it was cool. I had to take cover, and the cover, as it's getting shot at, gets deteriorated, so I need to think on the fly and go, alright. And also you've got a dog companion, which you can, like, you know, set out to retrieve guns that are on the battlefield for you, or to attack the enemies that are shooting at you. So I'm like, okay, what's the best option here? Do I send the dog out to this guy that's in this angle and then run for this gun? Or do I send the dog out to get the gun and then I run around this cover because this one's getting blown to shit right now? So I really love that problem-solving kind of aspect about it. It wasn't too over the top, but it was still enough for me to not feel like I was being held by the hand, but also enough to be challenged, which was great. The other great thing I liked about the game is that it's got a lot of beat-em-up mechanics. It's the equivalent of like hack and slash, it's just with empty hand, so I just call it bash and smash. But it's the same general concept. It's hit this button for a fast but light attack, this one for a powerful but slower attack, this one to block, this one to melee. You can even get guys into headlocks and knee them, knee guys around you that are coming in if you wanted to. You could like get guys in arm lock behind their back and handcuff it, and if they've got a gun in their holster, you can take it out and move them in cover and shoot it at other people. You know, you can move them over near windows and tall buildings and then kick them out if you wanted to. There was just so many awesome things you could do in this game, and no one really seemed to like it or get into it or even give it the time of day. But anyway, I'm just giving a shout out to the game just to know, so you know why I would pay that amount of money just for that one game alone. So anyway, that about wraps up my list. I know that there are other trilogies out there probably worthy of a remaster. I just wanted to talk about my favorites and the ones that, at least that I played at least some aspects of, because I know I didn't finish any of the Killzone games, but I played, the first game for about 2 hours, I played the second game for about the same amount of time, so I knew enough about it to know I'd give it another chance had they, or should they remaster it, so we'll just see what happens. But anyway, thanks for watching this video, I'll catch you in the next one, you all have a great day, go play some games.